Hi members, so I just finished an on-site visit to an office here in South Florida, and when I finish these on-site visits, I like to share with you the win that I was able to achieve with this perio office. So I visit this high standard private periodontal office. It's a 2 doctor office. And they, of course, like all of you, want to know how they can serve their patients better, how they can have a higher standard of care, how they can make their staff happier, how they can gain more acceptance, how they can make their schedule more productive, and how they can get more new patients in. So these are always top topics of interest when I go into a group. And of course, the first thing I do is work on team morale, because a happy team makes happy doctors, and happy doctors make an attractive environment for patients to want to accept. And then once I do that, we start talking about ways together, doctors, team, everyone can make some really good improvements with patients. So this particular office, our huge win that we had was, all of you doctors, if you remember of mine with the IDS, you are a really talented doctor and you have some good structures, and you've adopted some ways to make some big changes for the betterment of your patients and your staff and your practice. And what we did was we talked about how we can get patients to better understand the need for their treatment, because with perio, a lot of times what you have is you have a case that needs a plan, and you don't have any symptoms that provide a pain point for urgency and treatment. So you're having a patient referred over, or this patient is coming in because they heard about your advertisement. They have some, loose mobile teeth. They're experiencing some, maybe some new gaps in the area, and they're a little confused as to what's going on. Maybe you have a little bit of bleeding in that, most of the time not. Maybe you have a little bit of discomfort, a lot of times not. But this office in particular specializes in periodontal disease, specifically more than anything else. They do use Lanap. They and they get a lot of referrals for this. Now in our office, as you guys know, we don't use laser. Instead, we use an endoscope. So it doesn't really matter what you're using for your patients for the periodontal disease. What matters is whatever technique you're using, whether it's periscope, Lanap, a different laser, whatever you're using, you know that you provide a really good system for that patient to rid them of that disease and save their teeth. That's what you're doing. And you believe in it, and you've done your research, and you've done your training, and you do a really good job. So it doesn't really matter how you're doing it. And I'm not here to tell you one thing is better than the other. What I'm saying is you need to educate your patients more. So a few things that we did in that office that really got the team excited, really got the doctors excited, and trying it with the patients. And we were able to get cases accepted, not only cases accepted, but we were able to get patients excited about getting rid of this disease and getting ready to start this treatment. So the doctors go into a room, and they are treatment planning these cases. So they want the patient to engage with them. They want the patient to connect with them. How do we do it? So the assistant gets the patient, brings the patient back to the room. The patient, in another training video, will talk about how the assistant can really connect with the patient, educate that patient, and get the patient to almost be ready to accept that treatment before the doctor even mentions it. So these particular assistants are extremely talented. They have gone through a lot of training with these doctors. They have been able to duplicate the philosophies the doctors like to use with their patients, and really get into some really nice education, using some models, using their own photos, using photos of cases of other patients, using their x-rays, FMX, CAT scan, and really showing these patients what is going on to prep them for when the doctor comes in. they call the doctor into the room. While the doctor comes into the room, they introduce the patient. They give the doctor a brief on what they have done and what they're seeing. They're seeing they're seeing the mobility. They're seeing a lot of the plaque, or they're seeing a lot of the calculus on the FMX. They're seeing a lot of that bone loss on the FMX. And they're also reiterating or telling the doctor some of the symptoms that the patient might be having, or some of the complaints the patient might be having. So now the patient's like hearing in a different language how the assistant is relaying all this information to the doctor. Doctor receives that, doctor acknowledges that, doctor, does what he does to introduce himself, looks at the x-rays, looks at the CAT scan, looks at the pictures, agrees with the assistant. Yes, I see what you're talking about. Wow, this is some, advanced disease that I see going on here. In the examination, talking to the assistant, again, confirming the degree of the disease that's going on. Once done, sits the patient up, and when the patient is getting seated in the upright position, the assistant is calling for the treatment coordinator to come into the room. Right when the patient sits all the way up, the doctor sees the treatment coordinator walk into the room, introduces the treatment coordinator to the patient. Patient, this is Julie, this is my treatment coordinator. She's going to be in here today to take notes on the options that I'm going to recommend for you, and then go over those options with you. So Julie, today John has come in because Dr. Reddy has referred him to our office. They have been trying to control this periodontal disease for quite some time, but it's just getting to where they need a specialist to help Joe with this disease. So what I found today is there is some advanced periodontal disease going on here. There is some significant bone loss in these areas, naming off the teeth. There is some severe recession going on in these teeth. Pulling up the photos to show the treatment coordinator, pulling up the x-rays to show the treatment coordinator. We all know what's going on here, right? It's actually to show the patient, because the treatment coordinator knows that. So there's talking about all this, talking about the degree of the bone loss, talking about how the LANAP system that he has, what he's gonna do, how long he wants to use it for. Again, talking to the treatment coordinator, but the patient's absorbing all this. And the really cool thing that we're doing with the patients during this time is, because the treatment coordinators and the assistant are so well trained, just with weekly staff meetings to talk about what is periodontal disease, the degrees of periodontal disease, how the bone loss is affecting this, how the mobility comes into place, the different degrees, at what point are they not going to be able to save the teeth, what treatments are working for this, because they have gone through all this training over and over and over again, just as we do in our office. We spend an hour a week going over this knowledge training so that we can be better for our patients. The treatment coordinator is asking the doctor things like, will you need some materials? Do you need to do any bone grafting in these areas? Do you need any extractions, or is there any teeth that just are not quite going to make it through this process? For the areas of missing teeth, do you want to have some implants in those areas, maybe to build up that bite and take some stresses off those front teeth? And they're talking like this, and if the assistant or the treatment coordinator is saying anything that's not correct, the doctor says, no, I wouldn't do that in this case because of this, or yes, that's a great idea because. So with the relationship now that's being created in front of the patient, where the doctor, the treatment coordinator, the assistant is all discussing these options and talking about what they can do to help the patient. The patient's really getting impressed and really getting involved as well. And because everyone's on the same page and everyone has this wonderful relationship together, it is really attractive to the patient that, wow, this is a really awesome group, and they're really concerned about my dental health and saving these teeth. And so they come up with this plan, and once Julie has everything written down, she reiterates it back to the doctor, say, okay, this is what I have. We're going to do, 3 hours of the LANAP treatment with the scaling rate planing. We're going to, do this, you get the disease rid. I'm going to, call in this prescription or do this oral DNA test, and we're going to go on ahead and extract these few teeth because you can't save these teeth. And then once the disease is done and taken care of, we'll see, Joe back in a few weeks, and we'll do the follow-up. And at that time, we'll discuss some implant placements. Once we have a healthy field and the disease is gone, then we could talk about rebuilding the bite to give you some better chewing capabilities or a better smile or whatever it is, because we want to take the stresses off of those teeth. And so she's reiterating that, yes, that's what we want. Or if she forgot something, don't forget about this, or add this, and how about if we do this as well? So then Julie excuses herself, and she's going to go and put that plan together. And the doctor asks if you have any more questions and do you need anything else. And then the doctor will, shake hands. It's nice meeting you. I look forward to treating you. And, I do want you to come in here as soon as possible. This is, this is a pretty severe case of periodontal disease. And my goal is to save your teeth. My goal is for you not to lose any more teeth. My goal is to improve your dental health. And everyone has their own philosophy on relating it to anything that you feel you're comfortable with, whether you're going to the journals on the correlation between the periodontal disease and heart disease or Alzheimer's or whatever it is. Patients need to know that periodontal disease does not typically have symptoms, and that means there's no pain involved. There's no pain button involved in doing this right now. So unless you can really educate that patient on what periodontal disease is, what's going to happen if they don't treat that disease, what else could happen in their body health-wise having this disease, if you're not going to be able to educate that to the patient so that they really can experience the loss, because a patient will most definitely want to prevent a loss more than to gain a win. You have to go over this with your patient. Now, when the doctor leaves and it's just the assistant and the patient in the room, the assistant is going to reiterate, see if you have any questions, bring out the models again, make sure it's understood. And they're also going to start going into the pre and post-op instructions for the scaling, root planing, endoscope, LANAP, laser. They're going to go over that. They're going to talk about maybe the soon dates that are coming up for options for treatment. Like I said, all the pre and post-op instructions, explaining what the treatment is, doing that, using that time for that while the treatment coordinator is working at the plan. Then when the treatment coordinator is ready, the assistant walked them to the consultation room. Now, they've already met Julie. There's no introduction. Again, they already know she was in there. They know that she is connected to the plan. She knows what's going on. It's not some lady just walking in to take their money and be that salesperson. You've eliminated that. So now it's just trust. It's Julie. They know Julie, and they know Julie knows the whole story. So Julie can go right to, all right, so any questions on what Dr. Lewis said? Any questions on what we're doing? All right, great. So here is the plan. Here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then a few weeks later, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. This is your whole plan here. Altogether, the total cost for all this is $7,000. Now you have three different options to pay for this. You can either accept a 5% discount today. That saves you X amount of money. That's a lot of money. You could do that. If you don't want to do that, then you can do a deposit today. We take a deposit of $500, and then 2 weeks prior to the surgery, we're going to give you a call. At that time, we'll collect the remaining balance of $6,500. We could do that. If you don't want to do that, we do offer financing. And if you don't want to do financing, we do have payment plans. So either way, this is what your payments would be. If you decide to go with payment plans, we have everything up to 18 months on this plan. It'll be X amount of dollars per month until that is paid off. Which one of these is better for you? And let them focus on the payment options instead of focusing on the amount that it's going to cost for everything. That worked so beautifully. The patients focused on what their payment options were. They went on ahead and chose it. Now, if you guys don't offer payment plans, please email me at Danielle, Daniel, at directorofdentistry.com. There is payment plans that you can offer through a company called Cherry. It's almost exactly like Care Credit, but it's not financing. So many good perks. When we started using Cherry, if you watched my video before on this, our acceptance rate automatically did increase. It's a great thing for the patient, and also a great thing for the office. You still get paid up front. You don't have to worry about payment plans for you. This is through the company, but it goes to 18 months interest-free or interest-bearing. But their rates are better than Care Credit, so you can offer 18 months interest-free at the same amount that Care Credit charges you for 12 months. Patients do love it. It's really quick, it's really easy, and they have payment plans. So they choose which one they want, they sign, they pay, they schedule, they're done. It was so easy. We just nailed it that day. All the patients were excited. They weren't confused. They were not hesitant. Sent them home with their photos, their x-rays, the perio charting, the pre and post-op instructions, all their stuff in a folder ready to go, and they were excited, very excited. So if you have any questions on any of this and you want to know how you can implement it into your practice as well, please email me at Danielle at directorofdentistry.com. I'll be more than happy to share how I can help with your team and maybe improve this or implement this in with your team. And I would love to do that for you, because it was very exciting for the team, for the treatment coordinators, the assistant, the doctors, the patient. It was a win for everyone. Any questions? Just let me know. Have a great day.